Welcome to another episode Out of the Blank Podcast. I'm here with Joe.
Hey, what's going on, man? I'm excited to do this. I had a long day at work and all I thought about was coming home and doing this fucking podcast. I can curse on here?
We're not family friendly, I don't think, unless Mr.
Cool.
Rogers is sponsoring us, which is my dream.
All right, cool. I got a mouth of a fucking sailor. I'm from the Bronx. So.
Dude, I curse in my everyday life and I tell people, look, I'm not going to hide it over a podcast. And yes, my grandmom listens, and shout out to her because I will never cuss when I'm eating your pancakes, ma'am.
Dude, I'm a big grandma's boy. My grandma is upstairs.
Well, Joe, tell me a little bit about yourself. What makes you above the average Joe?
Above the average Joe. Nice, I like that. So, well, for one, my day job, I work in a school, which is very ironic because I grew up hating everything about school other than being in a performing arts class. Like anything music and acting related, I loved it. But that's my day job. And outside of that, I host my own show called The Audio Asylum, which is basically me and my Misfit Island of Toys friends talking about the most ridiculous shit and a little bit of pop culture. I'm your average nerd. I like heavy metal and punk rock music. I love horror movies. I'm a sports guy too, a New York sports guy, unfortunately, so we don't have a lot to be happy about. But
so the Audio Asylum is basically just, it's not an audio drama, but it's more on the concept of like just a bunch of your friends getting together and being able to talk about whatever you guys really want to talk about.
Yeah, man, pretty much. It started like 5 years ago. I started the show originally to be a wrestling podcast, like wrestling and pop culture. And then I listened to The Basement Yard. I don't know if you ever heard of that. This famous YouTuber, Joe Santagato, and his friends. And I was like, these guys are just being themselves. Like they're talking about whatever comes up. And one of the hardest parts I found about making my own show when I was doing the wrestling podcast was this isn't going to appeal to everybody. And when I listened to The Basement Yard, I was like, man, this reminds me of the conversation me and my friends have when we're just sipping on beer, hanging out in a bar in the basement. So I kind of nixed the whole wrestling podcast idea. And I was like, let's just be ourselves. So it's really just your average guys talking about whatever's on our mind.
I think that's like probably one of the best podcasts out there is like the conversation ones, the ones that really like just talk and you don't really know where it goes. Like what's something in your head right now that you're thinking of, something random that you maybe had thought of earlier today that you've been focused on for a while, like anything in particular?
I was thinking about music a lot today.
What kind of music?
Punk specifically, because I've been practicing guitar seriously for the past 3 years. So I was trying to think about what song I wanted to pick up tonight and try to mess with and learn.
Okay. How are you obsessed with how easy it is, I guess, to create a punk name for a song? Because I find it pretty freaking easy if I just take two words that sound kind of violent and mix them together. Like anal toast. Are you kidding me? That's a punk song.
That is a punk song. Rotting shit.
There you go.
Is a punk song.
Like bladed wood chipper. That could be the band.
Sour titties.
The milk has gone sour.
Yeah, dude. I love things like that, by the way. Like, because I'm a fan of rock music, if you think of band names like Korn, like when did they sit down? That's not a punk band, it's a metal band, but when did they sit down and they were like, that's the name, guys?
Isn't what I hear so many people start like a podcast or start a song or a band or a movie, or even like they have this amazing backstory where it's like forged in this one late night. Like even this podcast started over like a pretty amazing story, but then it's like Korn. Why can't it just be as simple as the guys were eating a corn dinner and then they were like, guys, this is the perfect name for our band. We've been stuck on it for months. And I'm telling you, this corn on the cob, we're going to call it corn on the cob. And the guy goes, just take out the on the cob part and put in corn. It's perfect.
Yeah, dude, exactly. Looking, my favorite band's name is Stone Sour. And that name simply came from them being at a bar and they ordered a whiskey sour, but a different version of it. And the bartender said, this is called a Stone Sour. And the lead singer went, that's the band name.
I think it's because of the fact, like, everybody always talks about, like, things are way too hard to create. I guess I'm just not creative. Like, everything has already been invented. I'm like, maybe everything technology wise that you can think of, but it's pretty freaking easy to think of anything else, like a new game to keep yourself entertained. Like, a dude created fucking handball. Like, that's just
Yeah.
tossing a ball back and forth at a wall because you don't have any friends to play with. And next thing you know, it's like this amazing pastime.
Yeah, dude. Oh man, that was big when I was in school over here, man. I sucked at it, but that was a big thing here. Where are you from, by the way, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm over here in Maryland.
Nice, man. So schools over there are probably like a lot bigger when you were growing up, right? Like huge schoolyard and everything.
All right, so here's the weird thing is that I'm actually kind of hurt by this, but my school, my old school, like the ones like literally I would drive past me like that's where I must knock myself out on the playground. They had this like little swing thing that you would jump on, but like you had to climb up a rock to get up there. I
Oh, like
fuck
the rope.
Yeah, I slipped one day and nailed my like middle of my ribs on a metal pole and completely bruised my ribs, but I knocked the wind out of myself. That's the first time I did that when I was like 9. But they just rebuilt the school. Like, those the trailer homes, the ones that they would be out back, like that would be a separate class, like the classes they didn't really give a shit about. Like,
Yeah.
here's English, here's all this type of stuff that you kind of need, but we're gonna throw them outside. So those were fun experiences. You got to leave the school, it felt like. Well, they knocked down that whole entire school, my old school, and they built a brand new one. And I'm like,
Yes.
this is too much. Like, no, 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 no. And then not even that. They did that like a few months before the pandemic happened. So then it was like nobody could even enjoy the new school. So I was like, what the like
All the cool shit happens after you graduate, and then or a pandemic hits and ruins everything.
I feel bad for the kids that are having to return back to school. I feel like they get a mulligan where the whole year's just canceled out.
Oh, dude, like coming from somebody whose day job is in a school, it is so fucking hectic and unorganized, and it's nobody's fault, really. Nobody expected the world to literally shit itself, but it's a chaotic mess, man. I don't know how anybody's doing it. I barely get on by a thread throughout my day.
That's what the podcast is for. You get to just come home and vent into it.
Exactly. That's like what I have to look forward to. Like when I leave the job, I'm like, all right, like time to work on stuff for the show, play some guitar, or slip into my hobbies that'll take my mind off of the day job because the world is crazy right now, man.
Or
People definitely need an escape.
here's a good thing you can do. Since a lot of people now that they're able to rejoice into the world again, since we're not really on lockdown in our homes, when you see people like walking like on the street, just stare out your window at them. Just stare. Just stare. They're gonna look up like, what the hell is wrong with that guy? And then
It's
keep doing it every day. And it'll just eventually you'll be labeled. And then once you're labeled that way, nobody will go near your lawn. You don't have to worry about somebody's dog crapping on there. You don't have to worry about any of that. And then they don't ever have to worry about your neighbor saying, hey, how you doing? When you're like carrying a handful of groceries into your house. That happens to me every time I go to the grocery store. I got like, because we don't do 2 trips or something. We do 1 trip. You carry everything in the house, and if you can't get everything, that gets stuck in the car. I've had Ben and Jerry's ice cream get stuck in the car.
oh shit.
That's how the dice rolls with me. I'm doing 1 trip. If I will break all my fingers to be able to carry everything in. And my
Same.
neighbor just goes, "Hey, what's up, man?" And then just starts getting in front of me to talk, and I'm like,
Oh, dude, it's the worst.
"You're in my house. What are you doing? Get out of my house. I'm trying to drop off my groceries."
Oh man, I don't know. Like culture wise, I know it's probably different from New York and Maryland, but I don't know if you've ever been walking, listening to music or a podcast, and you're really into it, and somebody stops to talk to you, and it's not that you don't like them. It could be a friend, a family member, but you're like, "Fuck! Now I have to take my headphones out,
Okay.
and I have to pause the song or the podcast and listen to you." Like that's my big pet peeve when I'm on my way somewhere.
So I work at a gym and we have to say good morning and then goodbye to everybody that walks in, like at the front desk and stuff. you don't know, everybody comes in with headphones, like getting ready for their workout. So half the time they don't even hear you. They just keep on walking. So it's like you just say it to nobody. So then like my boss is like, well, then just say other things besides good morning. Be like, I took a dump, and then they'll walk right by you. And I'm like, oh, this is perfect. I can vent out all my anger. Like, I hope you die. And the next thing you know, they take their headphone out. Like, what'd you say? Like, I
Oh,
had a woman, I was like, have a good day. And then she took her headphone out all aggressive. Like, what'd you just say to me? Like, I was saying trash to her. I was like, have a good day. And she's like, oh, you too. And I was like, okay. Okay.
so you work in a gym. Have you ever seen anybody like hurt themselves like
I
crazy?
saw a man die.
No shit.
This was September 15th. I saw a man die. So that was probably the scariest thing I have ever seen. I called 911, then had to try and navigate them to the gym, but it was nuts. I've talked about it on a previous episode, so I'll link you to that one. But
Yeah.
have you ever seen anything like that? Like anything super crazy at school besides maybe a kid like lighting dog shit on fire or something?
Oh, dude, I saw last year, we big lunchroom in one of the schools I worked in, and two kids were fighting in front of a vending machine, and I guess they had beef with other kids, and a group came, and everybody was fucking each other up against the vending machine. The plastic broke, chips fell everywhere, and when I tell you, it was like Night of the Living Dead. Every fucking kid ran. These are high schoolers, by the way. They're teenagers. They're self-aware what the fuck they're doing. Run and grab all the chips and all the shit that fell out and ran away. Like, my description doesn't do it any fucking justice.
Oh
Like,
my God. I remember when I was in high school, my freshman year, my brother was a senior. And I remember there was one truancy officer there. There was one cop, one little small guy. Then by the time, like, you get to see how the times changed and the kids got rougher. Because my senior year, there were like 12 different state troopers at our school. And I was
geez,
like,
troopers.
what
Oh,
the hell happened to us? Did we all go downhill? And it's like apparently we just everything happened, got more aggressive. There were more shooters going on in the news and everything. Next thing you know, instead of doing fire drills, or we had, I think, one of those emergency like stranger in the building drills. And
oh.
then now I'm hearing from like my nephew who's like in middle school that it's happening. Like they do those once a month. They practice the shooter drills. I'm like, that's fucking terrible. Worst thing you want to do is die in like a U.S. history class.
Yeah, for real. I don't know if you've ever seen that show, 13 Reasons Why.
Mm-mm.
Like, spoiler alert, in season 4 they like have a scene where they're in the school and they stage a shooting drill, but they stage it like it's actually a shooter in the building, and then the kids find out and they're pissed. But I remember watching that scene being so fucking uncomfortable, being like, oh my god, like I can't even imagine, because you would think they would do those drills here in New York City a lot, but to be honest, they don't.
I got in trouble for asking a question during the shooter drill instruction.
Jeez.
My art teacher was like, we're all going to gather around in the corner and huddle up next to each other, like kind of like block our bodies. I'm going to put my body in front of all yours. So I'm like, so we're basically getting in a little small circle group in the corner where he could just light us all up at once. We're not going to be spread out. So the motherfucker has to move around and shoot. And she
Yeah.
was like, that's, how dare you say that? Get out of my class. I'm like, it's a logical question that we would want to be separated from each other. So the fact of he has to move around and hopefully somebody can run up and tackle the psycho, not just line them up in a, let me set all my targets in one corner. So it's like playing Battleship and you load all your battleships in one corner. It's like you're screwing everybody over. I want a chance. I want to be near the window.
Yeah, dude, I've never understood that, like the whole get together thing, because I've thought the same thing. Teachers and authority figures get pissed when you point out a flaw. Oh my god, they hate it. It's the literally it drives them crazy.
I wish I didn't have such a problem with authority. I don't know what it is. If people can ask me to do something, I'll do it. But if you tell me to do something, I don't want to do it. My
Yeah,
teacher's
oh
like,
man.
why don't you just bring a pencil to class? I'm like, that's a very good suggestion. I should do that. And I brought a pencil to class. One teacher was like, you need to bring a pencil to class. She gave me a pack of pencils. I threw them up into the ceiling. I was like, it's that simple. Like, I just don't know what it is.
I never did good with it myself, to be perfectly honest with you. I was pretty quiet in school growing up until I got to high school. Like living in New York, like specifically in the Bronx, it was like I'm not even trying to tell a sob story, but dude, I was like the punk rock kind of kid that liked all the shit that nobody else liked. So everybody was really into like hip hop and basketball and stuff. And I was like, I watch Nightmare on Elm Street, like, and I listen to Green Day, and I watch hockey. Like,
Well, dude, New York's like a crazy place to grow up too. I mean, the fact of like you don't really need a car to go anywhere. You can just take public transportation, which that like if you live in a major city like that, you come into such interactions with people. Like you come against, I guess, the wide variety of what people can be. You can see a homeless man that's shoving a bike handlebars up his ass, which I have seen on Facebook. Has been a video on there. And then also the fact of like people wear headphones a lot down there. So
mhm,
like that's because cars are so loud. There's so much noise pollution. Like it's ridiculous to that fact. I mean, I have people that come from New York come to my beach town just to visit and like always wearing headphones or they have them out and they just want silence. Like they don't want you to talk. They don't want any of that because they haven't really heard it before.
yeah. Oh, dude, you said you brought up cars, and it made me think of this one time in high school where I was getting out, and right across the street from my high school, there's a diner, and I watched this teacher get fucking slammed by a car, dude, and he like fucking like he was over here and he was over there like after impact, like it was an insane noise. I've never seen anybody get hit by a car, but that one time, and I just like remember just standing there being like, "Oh shit, I think he's dead, but I hope he's not fucking dead."
This,
Thankfully, he wasn't dead.
I swear to God, this like past not September, but the month before September has like August has been like the month of car crashes in my neighborhood because every day on my way to work at like 3 in the morning, there was a car in a ditch that was flipped over. There was a dude that rammed into a tree. There was one that ran into a power box somewhere off the road near my town, and the whole town's power went out for like a few hours. And I went up to the Wawa. I was like, but dude, you got to hear this. This is like some hypochondriac schizophrenia stuff. So I'm like, the headlights on my car are dim, like very dim. So I have to use the high beams. And I'm like, is it me or am I getting night blindness? Like I'm just not seeing as well as I used to at night. I feel like it's getting really dark. Then I'm going into town and it feels like none of the lights are on, which none of them were because the power was out. But I didn't know that yet. So I'm driving. I'm like, oh my God, I must be going. So I'm getting in this in my head, like, oh my God, I'm going blind, like night blindness, all this type of thing. I need
Oh
to
fuck.
start driving during the day. So I'm freaking myself out. I go to Wawa, lights are off. I'm like, all right, now I know there's a fucking problem here. So I like walk up to the door and the person's like waving their phone light in the thing, like power's out. Sorry, man. I'm just like, good, because I'm headed into work right now. So now I know what I'm fucking walking into. So I'm like, all right, maybe I won't have to open up if the lights are out.
Yeah.
As soon as I put the key into the door, all the power lights come on, everything, the whole town. I'm like, gotta be shitting me.
Jesus Christ. Ah, man, over here, it's more so just people causing a lot of fucking problems, at least in my neighborhood. Like, I live a block away from the projects, which is like in the Bronx. If you say that to somebody that's never been over here before, they're like, oh my God, the projects. Have you been beat up by gang members? My answer is thankfully no, but I've seen gang members beat up a lot of people.
So even with living in New York and coming around all that, why didn't you decide to maybe turn it into like a true crime podcast? It seems like you would have a lot kind of being able to do. I'm not talking about that it's a murderous place. I'm just saying it seems like that would be the reasonable thing, like how much crime is experienced in all these major cities.
I think as I just find comedy in a lot of it, I just try to look at the.
You could do a true crime comedy podcast. I like to laugh at death sometimes.
Yeah, man. It's a well, the part of the Bronx I live in here in Throgs Neck, it's super like hard to describe. Like I want to say something without sounding fucking like without sounding controversial and accidentally offending people. But like so it's like the quote unquote white part of the Bronx I live in.
Okay. All right.
Like, you know what I mean? But like obviously it's still New York, so you have your mix of races and ethnicities and cultures, but it still could get pretty fucking rough over here if the wrong people are outside causing a ruckus and fucking with people. But I honestly kind of want to move out of here at a certain point. Not because I hate it, but I've lived here my whole life. I kind of think I would like a Maryland or like Pennsylvania or something like that. Just a little bit more free space.
Well, I'm in a beach town, and trust me, I never want to see the ocean ever again. I love the smell of it. I love nature, but it's like I want to go somewhere, like wide open fields or something, like just a whole change of scenery. And then you end up moving back when, like, 20 years later, because you always go back to where you first started. Um,
Yeah.
but like, I just like looking at things like with true crime podcasts or all these other types of things. Like, there's so much interesting stuff out there to be like doing podcasts about. Like, it's pretty cool that you got one that kind of focuses on it all, talks about whatever you want to. How many times you see something get labeled as something, then you got to talk about, like, my podcast is about the best deli sandwich, and it's like, all right, well, how many
How
deli
far can we take
sandwiches? Yeah.
it? Yeah, I always figure it's better to just have it be natural flowing conversation because any podcast I listen to, the coolest thing is what you can relate to. Like I listened to the episode 274 with the arm wrestler.
Oh, 574. Yeah.
Oh, 574, yeah. And dude, like I don't know shit about arm wrestling. I didn't know there was these crazy competitions for it. But even that you and that guy were just shooting the shit about life and self-confidence and stuff like that too. So I love the fact that if you don't label a topic to it and people listen, it could be so easily relatable to the average person. I always think unrehearsed stuff is way better than something that you're labeling as this one thing, you know?
Yeah, like, what's one topic that you find that you think about a lot? Like, one thing you're really, really passionate about. It could be something super serious, it could be something super funny. I mean, I can go off about really about anything.
Oh, dude, like I was listening to a mental health podcast the other day called Off the Cuff, and I'm somebody who I deal with my own shit. I'm not perfect, but mental health can also be funny, man. Like, dude, I got anxiety, and I could poke fun at it all day.
Dude, I've made fun of panic attacks on here before. I've given myself panic attacks. I was like, if you try, people say, like, if you try hard enough, you can put your brain to anything. Damn right. I gave myself a full on panic attack where I was laying in my driveway in front of my car. Like, I can hear my heartbeat. The blood is in my ears. I can hear it all.
Oh man, I've been dying, if you don't mind, to tell the story about the first time I saw a panic attack.
The first time you saw a panic attack,
Yeah.
or the first time I've experienced one?
So I when I saw a panic attack for the first time, I think I was like 20. I'm 26 now. And I'm gonna try to make a really long story short and hit on all the
I
funny
want to
points.
hear it all, dude. I've had panic attacks. So I'm curious how you saw it as a person.
Yeah, so I left my old job early one day because I was just not having a good day. I was arguing with my ex-girlfriend at the time. My boss was being a dick. So I asked my assistant, I was like, dude, I'm not in the right headspace. Can I please go home? And my boss's assistant, top-notch guy, his name's Modesto, if he's out there in the world. Good dude. And he was like, yeah, man. He was like, don't worry about it. I'll tell the boss you were sick, whatever. I'm leaving. I walk up the block. I run into an old friend from middle school that I haven't seen in years. And he's like, yo, bro, I'm hanging out with this girl at some house with a few people, and we're drinking some beers. Like, you want to come? I was on my way to pick up beer, and I was like, fuck it. Underage drinking, by the way. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. I was 20 at the time. But
The statute of limitations are gone.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, honestly. So I go to this little shindig, and it's in a small, sketchy house, man. Like it. If you think of a small, sketchy New York apartment in your
I've
head,
seen crack houses out here that just leave their door open and people just walk in and out. Like, I don't even, I'm 100% sure they don't live there, but doors open 24/7. It's just a screen door and it's just a house that's all beaten and broken down. Like, the person didn't take care of it in like 50 years.
yeah, dude. So yeah, imagine that. That's kind of what like this place looked like, but they were playing some pretty good music. I can't lie. So I'm sitting there drinking beer with my friend that I haven't seen in a while. I meet this girl, and she's cute, punk rock chick. She plays piano. She can sing. And there's a few other people there I got introduced to. And then another one of my friends from middle and high school that I don't hang out with him per se, but I see him every now and then. He comes and he has a big crush on this girl. So to skip all the ambiance in between that's not as funny, at one point the girl comes to me and she's like, hey, I know your friend over there, he's had a crush on me for a while, but I have a boyfriend. But me and my boyfriend are arguing. She's like, your friend's really nervous, so I slipped some Xanax in his beer.
Fuck.
And I went,
what? And then like there's some fat, greasy dude in another room that offered me sketchy weed. And I was like, I'm okay, man. I'll just sip these Bud Lights. I appreciate it. And he's like, all right, man. You could trust us, though. Better here than out in the street. Very welcoming. I was like,
That's the best type of drug dealers, the ones that welcome you into your home.
yeah. He was like, yeah, man. And then like he like went to pull out this little box, and I can only assume more drugs were in that weren't weed. And he's like, oh, I got some other, and I'm like, oh, dude, like I'm just sipping on beer. I'm fine, man. I'm not really a drug guy. So so we go to another house, to another little party that we got invited to. And the kid, my friend who liked the girl that had the Xanax in his beer, is having massive anxiety. The Xanax did not do anything. So he's like walking with me and he's freaking out. And we're in a very condensed neighborhood. Like all the stores are close to each other, banks, homes, everything. Like a big strip. So we're in front of a TD bank, and this dude is going off and off, and I'm like, hey man, let's call him Jonathan. Let's say his name's Jonathan. And I went, listen, Jonathan, you gotta relax, man. Like, everything's gonna be okay. You're overthinking stuff. If she makes a move or you want to make a move, just do it. I don't think this guy is really coming to, I don't think the boyfriend's coming. So we're in front of the TD bank, and he goes, Joe, and he looks at the sky, and he goes, I think I'm gonna have a panic attack. Me never seeing a panic attack before. I've had anxiety, but at that point, I've never had an anxiety attack. I've had really bad shit where I've been crying and stuff, but like never where my body's just given up on me. And he said that, and I shit you not, this kid dropped to his knees, and in one fluid motion, dropped to his knees, and the back of his head touched the floor, and his ankles were behind his back, and I was just standing there like, whoa, this kid just folded like a piece of paper. And by the way, people walking by, bunch of people walking by, walking out of bars.
It's not a fun experience, I can tell you that. It literally feels like death is imminent, like any minute. I've had it in school my very first time, and then I did it like 2 months ago. I gave it to myself by just trying to think about the blood rushing through my heart in the ventricles and it going. And then suddenly I was like out of breath, and then I couldn't catch air, and then I just had to like lay down by my car because I was like freaking out. Like I had to like put my hands on the ground, like holy shit! Like I just gave myself a major anxiety or panic attack.
Oh yeah, dude. Like I've started like, so I saw that at 20, and I sound like such an asshole when I tell the story because, like, I just didn't know what to do. I remember going, do you want me to call your brother or your sister? And he went, nope, I'll fix it. And I'm just like looking around, and I'm like, do I call should I call a hospital? I'm like, I don't know. And like he got up and he went home and everything was fine. So like I find humor in that story just because I always try to laugh at the dark shit. I feel like you have to. But sitting here at 26, like, I've given myself anxiety attacks. I had one a month ago where I was just here in my room, and like, dude, I just didn't know what to do. I was upset over some personal shit. And I think the worst thing when you have those things is procrastinating on doing something to take your mind off it.
I think what's really interesting about mental health and the fact that like a lot of people are now coming out with anxiety is people are like, is it because we couldn't diagnose it before, or is it just becoming more relevant? I'm like, media has made it way more relevant, but I believe people are so malleable. It's just this thing that like I feel like we're all like somehow like cult mentality. Like, not that we want to split up into groups, which we do, but more on the fact of like somebody can come by and give you the keys to anything and you'll accept it. Like, it's just the weirdest thing. Like, we're wanting to be a part of something bigger and we're willing to listen to something that tells us that. That's what scares me is like, yeah, if I can give myself a panic attack, there's no way. I mean, there's every possible way I could be tricked into a cult. Honestly, I look back at some of the childhood shit I did and I was like, hang on a second. That summer camp, I did a lot of planting plants. Like, that was not fun. And then now they're using that for future generations in front of their classrooms. So I'm like, hang on a second. Did I just do a bunch of yard work for free?
Yeah, how much we can easily be manipulated. But yeah, dude, I think it's such a crazy topic to talk about because I'm so happy that there is more awareness brought to it because, to be honest, like I've probably dealt with anxiety and depression my whole life. Like I just have a really good sense of humor about it, and I'm very self-deprecating. But I I feel like social media can have a lot to do with it too. Like the image that can be portrayed through Instagram or Facebook of like the peer pressure of like needing to look a certain way or live your life a certain way or live up to a certain standard. And like I've fallen victim to my insecurity through that. I know a bunch of people do. And I feel like people just need to wear being themselves on their sleeves a lot more.
You just
Like,
gotta stop giving a shit, man. I don't
yeah,
know.
exactly.
I know it's way easier said than done, and honestly, I still think about it sometimes too. But from this past year alone, I've given less of a shit about than what people think most of the time. I mean, I used to be so like everybody's gotta love me, everybody's gotta love me, and then it's come to this point where I'm just like, do I like myself? Like that's the main one you kind of want to like you. You know what I mean? It's that
Yeah.
whole thing. But you find the shift. I think that's what's important about music, movie, and overall creativity. It's kind of dying. I mean, I don't know if it's taken to a new form where I just can't find it, but like creativity is something that was like kids used to have imaginary friends,
Yeah.
used to be able to color for hours. Now everything's just mindlessly being on the phone, not really any deep chats anymore. It's like you want to get into a chat with a random stranger. I'm literally doing the opposite of what my parents wanted me to do and warned me about talking to strangers when I was a kid. Unless there was peanut butter cups involved, you don't talk to the guy in the white van, which doing the opposite of things now, where I'm just trying to chat up with strangers. I think that's what social media should be used for. There should be a platform, there should be something where everybody's got an hour, man. I mean,
Yeah.
it's simple, but life's just tricky. I mean, it's funner to make a Facebook post or oh, this is what really gets me. So people telling other people to vote. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Why does everybody have to have insight into somebody else's life? I'm like, it helps at times. That's what therapists are for. They can give you
Exactly.
an insight, or a best friend can give you insight into a problem you might not be able to see. But then it's your American right to vote. I'm like, I've 10 posts ago, you were talking mad shit on America for how we've handled the coronavirus. And now you're telling me that you love America and you telling us to go vote? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, dude, like people like ending friendships over like shit like that is ridiculous to me. Like I get it, like if you're ending a friendship because you found out your friend's a racist piece of shit, totally cool. But like at the end of the day, it's like you said, like if I like this guy and I hate politics, honestly, I don't give half a fuck.
We just need something to fight against. That's the
Yeah,
thing. Instead of fighting each other, we need what we've had for years and years and years. And it seems like nobody's really recognizing this is the one time we're not at like a major war right now. It's always that we need something to focus on. We need something like an Iraq war, or something where people don't know why the hell we're over there, but we're at war. Everybody, once that word gets sent that we're at war, all these little petty things that we're fighting over and all these things that should have some change to it. But there are a lot of stuff where it's like we just need an enemy right now. Like we need a homeland or some dude to come up where we can all turn against them and protest against them rather than just protesting over these small little things. And by
yeah,
small little things, I mean like multiple things at once, not just one giant one.
yeah. I think like my favorite singer said this in an interview recently. He said, you know, there like I don't know anything about politics, honestly. I just know people are all bent up about it. But like there's the left and the right, and the problem, and you can relate this to real life too, dude. Like in friendships and relationships, like this side screaming and this side screaming. The best piece of advice I was ever given by my favorite teacher in my life in high school was when you scream, nobody really listens. And the problem is nobody's stopping and meeting in the middle and just having a regular conversation. Everybody's going, fuck you, and then everybody's going, fuck you too, and nobody's being like, hey, like, this
You,
is
you just gave
my
me a
point of
really
view.
good idea for a movie. Imagine start so primal scream therapy where people scream out their problems. Imagine if everybody did that in their backyard and then your neighbor knew what you were upset about because he could hear you screaming it. So then they would come over and be like, "Hey man, heard that your girlfriend left you. So here is a pizza and I'm sorry."
Dude, my neighbor would have a field day with me. Holy shit, he blasts music at all fucking times of the day. I can't tell you the amount of times it's so fucking loud that we've tried to do the show and it goes through the fucking walls, and I can't record the fucking show.
Do you not just go over there and tell them to turn it down?
Oh, we've done that. We've called the cops, and nobody gives a fuck. Like, New York City for you, the Bronx for you.
I remember where I used to live in my beach town, they had buildings right beside each other and the walls were paper thick. My dad would always say, Rob, you got to keep it down. You can't be screaming on an Xbox at like, this is like when I was like 15 years old. And I'm like, oh, the walls aren't paper thick, Dad. Like nobody can hear me. And then I'm sitting in silence and I just hear a sneeze. And I'm like, that was the woman that's right beside me, like living in the house next to me. And I'm like, bless you. And she's like, thank you. I'm like, yo, if she sneezed like that and I've been screaming on this thing, yo, that's why she's never home. She's just too nice.
Yeah, because she doesn't want to fuck knowing you can hear it.
Oh, dude, that's fucking terrible. I felt so bad. She was the nicest, like elderly lady too. We used to
Elderly.
I used to park up a couple spots so she would be able, because she was kind of a little bit overweight. So we would give her like the closest spot to her door so she didn't have to walk super far.
Gotcha, elderly. I thought we were going like maybe 20s to 50s, and I was
not
like,
OnlyFans, bro. No. Honestly, is it better to be rich and have a smoking hot wife, or is it better to be young and taken care of by an older woman with a lot of money, where you just have to bang her maybe like once a month, and then you get to spend all the money, drive a McLaren? Like if I told you about
get me that PS5.
yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
I don't mind a sugar mama. She'll take care of me.
Hell yeah, dude. Sugar mama, I'm all for it. Everybody wants a sugar daddy. I'm all for making sugar mama a normal thing, for sure.
Okay, now if you had to say, what's one thing that, not that you're passionate about, but one thing you're disgusted about by society or by anything, any specific topic that you hate the most, that triggers you?
Ooh, politics is up there for sure.
You gotta laugh at it sometimes, man.
Oh yeah, like I find it funny, but like when people try to go, like I have a friend that goes really deep into it, and I just sit there and I'm like, dude, I don't watch the news. I don't know what you're talking about. But the things that disgust me, like literally like shake me up, is like I can't deal with flat out racism, like at fucking all. And like I know this might be a super touchy topic, but like, you know, women being abused and stuff like that stuff hits like where like I don't want to hear it, like, you know, and you have to hear it though to be aware of it. But like that shit really gets to me. Like bullying is a big thing. Like, you know, I can laugh at bullying stories and stuff. Like I said, dark sense of humor, but I'm the dude that if I'm in a room and if somebody's ragging on my friend and I see it's bothering them, like I'm gonna say something at some point. You know what I mean?
I mean, I laugh at things like politics, like the debates and stuff, because I'm like, holy shit, this is our society right now. Like we're going down the shitter.
Nightmare.
But then I look at like all the crime stuff that goes on, and then I get like I entertain conspiracy theories, I really do. But then a buddy of mine like sends me messages like, this guy's not dead, he's still alive, it's all a hoax and it's all a false thing. I'm like, dude, this is where we got to draw the line, where that is a person that had lost their life and you're saying that they're not dead. I'm like, you can't do that. And I understand, but it's like, then you hear their perspective of it and you're like, oh my God, you got wrapped up. It's like you zigged and you should have zagged. It's like, oh, that's what is scary about the media, is that it's everything. Each channel is so completely different and so polar opposite. We're like, which is correct? Like next thing you know, they tell us JFK was actually not assassinated. He actually shot himself. It's like, what happened?
Yeah, we're gonna find out Tupac's alive soon.
I fucking hope he is, man.
Yeah, like with the way 2020 is going, I wouldn't be surprised if fucking Batman was real.
Everybody starts looking back now. It turns out Hitler was being drugged. Like he was on all these drugs and stuff that was causing him to be like on PCP rage and stuff. That's why he was always shouting and screaming and everything. Like they were secretly drugging him. Now they're looking back through all of our history and most of religion, where they talked about all these mystical stories. Turns out drugs might have been involved. I'm like, this is what happens when you build your society off one perspective. Another perspective comes out, then all your illusions are shattered. You don't know what to believe.
Yeah, dude, I think that's the biggest reason why I won't watch the news. Like, I'll hear of it, and like, obviously, social media, you're gonna see it. But yeah, like, I don't know what fucking story to believe, and it brings a big divide to people. And it's like, oh man, like, I'm just gonna watch stand-up comedy. Like, it's fucking.
I just need to laugh, and honestly, that's the one thing that's like trying to be taken down the most is comedy. And I'm like,
Oh,
let's just bring it back to the days where we could just laugh. And if we didn't like it, we just flipped the channel to a different thing.
dude, I am such a big comedy fan. Like 90% of my movie collection is that, and I love stand up. One of the biggest things I'm bummed about is here in New York, stand up is so popular, and I would go to a comedy show every week. It's that easily accessible down here. We still aren't fully out of the woods yet in Manhattan to go out and see comedy shows, but boy, do I miss that. And yeah, comedy, I think the world is too sensitive right now. Like, nobody can make a joke about anything without that person apparently being a bad person. And it's like, dude, it's a joke. Like, if it's not funny, don't laugh. But I mean, these artists, so to speak, are under fire for just doing their job at a certain point. Like, you have to laugh at some of this shit.
I'm waiting till everyone becomes like an anarchist where they hate the government, and then the government just creates somebody for us to go against. That's all they need is they need to create like one supervillain, like some Lex Luthor type that's like gonna blow up the world. That's what they tried to do with Bill Gates, where he was like, I want to launch a missile at the upper atmosphere, supposed to descend particles to help with the ozone layer, and everyone thought he was gonna blow up the sun. And then everyone's like
Yeah,
freaking out, like Bill Gates created the coronavirus. And I'm like, oh, what the, like, are we all just looking for like a villain from like a superhero movie or something?
yeah, dude. If aliens are real, they have looked down. They've been like, don't want to hang out with these fuckers, and they just kept going.
They're like,
And that bums
next
me
planet.
out because I want to play basketball with some aliens, and everybody's fucking it up for me.
Do you think they're going to want to play basketball if they did like space travel? Do you think that's what they're going to want to play?
True. I mean, but then again, if
It's
they've
fucking
never,
cricket, bro. They're going to want to play cricket. It's going to be something where it's like so weird to us.
I'd love to play beer pong with some aliens,
Can you imagine what happens if you get an alien drunk?
dude.
The
I
questions he
feel
would
like they
unleash
make
onto you.
oddly sexual.
I
Like,
really want to talk to someone who's been abducted by a UFO, but the fine line between is it bullshit or is it true?
yeah, that's because you have people claiming that they've seen shit all the time, but how do we know if we don't have any specific proof?
Can you imagine if you saw something you weren't supposed to see, the next thing you know, like nobody could believe you because it was so far fetched? And it took like 50 something years, and then you were finally right, and everybody like dismisses you for those 50 years, and then you finally are right, and they're like, you were right. And you're like, like, how would you feel good about that? Or would you be so pissed off that nobody believed you for 50 years?
I would lean more towards the pissed off that nobody believes me for 50.
That's the fucking Bob Lazar story, the dude that discovered the UFOs and stuff. His documentary that came out, he was telling everyone for like, oh, like 30 something years about Sector 7 and this type of new element and stuff, chemical 115. He was like, the government has UFOs. And for years, like even the FBI went into his college records, deleted everything. There was no record that he ever went to a college. So then he just seemed like a madman telling people this story and stuff, and everyone dismissed him. He couldn't get a job anywhere. Then some dude did a documentary on him, and it finds out all of it's true. And then he's getting this whole reversal. Everybody's like, he was right. He was right. And then everyone went the wrong way with it. They were like, oh my God, he's exposing aliens, and freaked out way too many people to where they wanted to storm Area 51 in September last year.
Yeah, oh man, I remember that.
He had to make a public announcement telling people that he lied. So imagine being right and then having to say after all those years of people making fun of you that you lied just so people would stop attacking the government and stop tearing each other apart. And then he's like, it is true, but I can't have you guys doing this. And that's the weirdest twist of events where it's like you shame this guy, he was right, then you're on his side, but then you're too far on his side to the point where you're trying to bust down and break down some government stuff where people are going to die.
I gotta check that out. Is it on Netflix, the documentary?
It's called Bob Lazar and I think Sector 7 or something. It was like one of the very first episodes on my other podcast I did. I actually did the documentary before he went on Joe Rogan's podcast. I was like,
Oh,
yo,
shit.
holy shit, this is an actual thing. I thought we were just bullshitting in a basement for 2 hours.
That reminds me, one of our my favorite episodes I've done on my show, we did an episode where we made an Area 51 dream team. So I got to ask you, if you were going to raid Area 51 and you could pick out a list of 5 fictional characters, who do you got going in that bitch?
Bigfoot.
Hell yeah.
Does he count?
Yeah.
Okay. What do we mean by fictional? Like anything from movies too?
Yeah, anything. Books, movies, comic books. You can throw real people you know in there if you want.
Bigfoot, Marv the Martian. I definitely want like a clone of Christopher Walken.
Nice.
Damn, that's a you said I want Dig 'em from Honey Smacks. If they could create him, that would be pretty sick. Then I feel like I would want to recreate the Green Lantern, or at least the Ring, because I would like the Ring.
Oh, hell yeah. I think my 5 was a Jimmy Neutron. Got some smarts going in there.
Respect.
Invader Zim.
Damn it, that was a good one. I would have chose that one too.
If we want to get real cartoony here, Timmy Turner. Because I think Cosmo and Wanda just come with the package.
That's not how it works. Genie only grants 3 wishes, and you can't ask for more wishes.
You know what? You're right. So I'll take Timmy Turner out. Invader Zim, Jimmy Neutron, Batman for the fuck of it.
Fuck yeah.
And the Men in Black.
Wow, okay. Does that count as 2, though?
Yeah, I guess so. You'd have Agent J and Agent K.
Unless you just want Agent K.
Yeah, that is true.
I feel like he's all you need.
Yeah, honestly.
All right. If you could have a superpower, what superpower would it be?
Oh, dude. Invisibility. Hands down.
Why?
Think about it. I just want to be a fly on the wall for certain people I know.
That's what podcasts are for.
That is true. But I just want to see what the fuck goes through certain people's minds when I'm not around.
Maybe that's why people are in insane asylums are insane, because the government gave them all the information. Like one dude just vented to him, like, I've been holding this secret for 20 years. Here you go. Here's the file to everything. And the person knows it all, then just starts screaming it out to the world, and no one could believe him, so they lock him in an insane asylum. That's a fucking movie. That's the Shawshank Redemption.
That's such a hard question, because now that you mention it, like, yeah, invisibility, maybe traveling at light speed, I would save a lot of money on plane tickets.
I would like to teleport.
Yeah, teleportation too. Save a lot of money on traveling in general.
There's always got to be a fallback to it, though. So, like, if you're invisible, or do you say invincibility or invisible?
Invisible, sorry. Yeah.
So then you would have to only be invisible if nobody was looking. So then people wouldn't, you know what I mean? It would be that weird thing. Like, that doesn't make any sense. So, like, if you could fly, you'd have to fly only when you're inside a building. And then, so then my teleport thing would only work once a day. So, like, I could only teleport once, and then I have to wait there until the next day to be able to teleport again.
See, yeah, the fallbacks are the hard part.
That's like any prayer that you have. There's always that fallback to it.
So then I have a question for you. So what was like the origin of this podcast? Like, when did you think about it? Like, how did it come about?
I will give you the quick and skinny, because I've said it before on here, and I'll actually send it to you, the episode, but it's episode Brooks Holloway. It was my buddy was trying to jump off of his roof at like 2:00 in the morning. So I talked him down, and realizing like we're all just like really kind of trying to figure out what life is. And conversation seems like to be the main fix to a lot of our issues. Just talking, not really so much of everybody needs to say what they have to say, but more like talking and listening, and just a back and forth banter that we seem to have lost somehow with how we build up these walls and everything. Nobody ever wants to take the shot.
Dude, that's fucking great, man. That's like, wow, you got me today. You got me. But that's dope, man, because at the end of the day, communication is key. And I do think a lot of people have lost the art of conversation. I'm a big advocate for, I love sitting down, talking to new people, my friends, like just getting shit out. And just, I love a good, deep conversation, man. So that's fucking cool that this came about from helping your friend out, man. That's dope.
And I appreciate you for giving me your time today, too. I know you just got off work and you were excited to do this. It makes me feel good. It makes me feel like not a loser that I am. I appreciate that. But Joe, please promote where people can find your podcast and listen to your stuff.
Thanks, man. So my podcast is the Audio Asylum. You guys can find that on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Spotify, Stitcher. I think we're on everything now. And our visual comedy content is on YouTube. If you want, I'll send you a link. So our YouTube account is just us being idiots. We have a series called Dare Pong, where me and my friends will run through these beer pong games. But if you, let's say I was playing you, if I make it in your cup, you pick a dare out of a hat, and you have to do it. You only get one free pass. So if the WWE was running a beer pong promotion, that's what this is.
You said
We
dare.
also have
You said dare. I was thinking the drug program where like you're like every time you throw one of the pongs into the cup, you have to take a different drug.
Nah, just some beer pong with some bad repercussions, with some styrofoam title belts. But you guys can find that on YouTube. We just released a few hot wing videos of us trying this really hot sauce, and yeah, man. I mean, that's about it. Dude, thanks for having me on the show. Like, I've been really excited to try to network with more people through Instagram, and thank you for the hit up. And if I could just take the 1 second to get this out there, like, whoever's listening from your fan base or whatever, like, just be good to each other, man. The world sucks right now. Honestly, you don't know what people are going through, and something as simple as a little compliment or a like or opening your ear to a friend or somebody you may know might brighten somebody's day. The world sucks right now. Let's make it suck a little bit less. That's my piece.
Give a hug and don't do drugs unless it's other nice good drugs, not the bad stuff. I feel like PCP's not lumped into that category.
Oh yeah, drink a beer, smoke some weed, maybe open up Pornhub tonight. Nothing wrong about that.
Rub one out or just watch a good Netflix series. That helps too.
Hell yeah.
Thanks for listening to this episode Out of the Blank podcast and stay tuned for our next episode.